when you fear. There's no easy way to hear. And all the memories you love to bring, with all the things that you hate to scream. So tell me, hollow on the inside, there's no trying to hide from this monster inside me. So if you try to criticize me, like the world defines me, image of what I have become.
Let's talk about it. The Browns have the number 2 pick in the NFL draft, and this leads the conversation. What should we do? What should the Browns do at number 2? What say you, sir?
Yeah, so for me personally, when I look at the number 2 pick, so I feel like it's pretty obvious the Titans at 1, they're going to go quarterback. The early reports are that their guy is Cam Ward, that they are really, really high on him and they're interested in him. Which, if that's the case, then Shedeur Sanders is at 2. But vice versa, one of those guys is going to be available to you at 2. And here's what I will say. If you watch our earlier episodes, when we talked about early thoughts on these quarterbacks, you know well I am not a Cam Ward guy at all. And I think it would be a mistake if we took him. But with that being said, if we do take him, obviously I'm going to support the decision. But it's a very, very important pick, and we have to make sure we get it right if we are picking there. Then, of course, you got best player available. You will have your pick of pretty much any top player at their position at that pick. You have the chance to pick generational talents at their positions. And I shouldn't say generational, but elite talents at their position. Generational should be reserved for guys like Myles Garrett. So, and then you have the third option, which is trade. And I'm kind of indifferent on what the Browns should do. For me, it's between best player available and trade. I think that if you can find a way to get a player of the caliber of, say, Abdul Carter across from Myles Garrett, your defense gets to a whole nother level that you didn't even know was possible. You could go and get your offensive tackle of the future. That's certainly something that you can do, your left tackle of the future. There's so many guys at the top of this draft that are really, really talented. But I also look at it and I say, because there's so many guys at the top of this draft that are very talented, maybe you can get more picks by trading down and you'll still have somebody, say, like you trade down with the Raiders or something like that, because they want to leapfrog the Giants to take a quarterback. You can pick up another first rounder next year. You can pick up an extra second rounder for this year, which we already talked about. There's going to be some really good guys in that area. I mean, Derek, it's very possible that, like, in terms of running back, you could see guys as good as like Travion Henderson or Quinshawn Judkins in the third round, like when we're picking. Like, that's how deep this running back class is. And so the more picks that you can have in that area in terms of the early second, early third in this year's draft, because it's at positions where it's really deep, at positions of need for us, you can find some really, really good players, Derek. It's a very unique situation. I'm really interested to see what we do. I think at this point, I'm leaning towards trade. I think that there's going to be a team that sells themselves on Cam or Shedeur and is willing to sell the farm. And the way I look at it is, if Shedeur or Cam were in last year's class, where would I have them? Shedeur, I'd probably have above Bo Nix. In terms of like first round picks where they ended up going, he would probably be above Bo Nix, right there with Penix for me. Fairly close. I probably would still go Penix over him. And then Cam Ward, obviously, I've said my piece. I wouldn't take him. So I'm really indifferent about taking quarterback at that spot, and I think you can really get a lot for that pick, and you can get enough assets as well in the future where you can trade up in the future for your guy in the next coming drafts.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, I think this comes down to one question. And unfortunately, it is a question that the Browns have to ask themselves and answer now, like within the next couple weeks. And it's not just because of the importance, but it's also how it affects the future of this team. And I'm probably giving it away, but offensive coordinator is a big question with this piece. Myles Garrett is a big question with this piece. And you have to ask yourself today, and you have to figure it out, are we drafting a quarterback? And I'm not talking about either one of these guys in particular as far as like who. I mean more so either one of them. Like, do they like either one of them and view them as the quarterback of the future? In my opinion, as far as what we should do, if it were up to me, if Cam Ward was there, my thoughts on Cam Ward. We'll have those conversations many, many times throughout this offseason. I would take Cam Ward if Cam goes number 1 and Shedeur Sanders is there at 2 and Travis Hunter is there at 2. For me personally, I'm probably taking Travis. But at that point, I am full on board with take those calls because Shedeur Sanders, I think he is a good quarterback. And I do think he will be good at an NFL level. But I think he has significant limitations. And he is not somebody that I would view as super confident. And I'm not saying I'm super confident in Cam Ward either. But as far as for your organization and making that decision, what the Browns cannot do is trade that pick and then have Cam Ward be an elite quarterback. Have Shedeur Sanders be an elite quarterback. That would be number 1 disaster. And for me, I think if the Browns get to 2 and they don't like whatever quarterback option is there, take your calls. If you don't like the calls you're getting, take Travis Hunter. I think it is that simple. But again, this comes down to the question of take a quarterback or not. And this is a deep conversation that we're going to have more in depth later. But just initially, my answer to that question is 1,000%, 100% yes. I think we should take a quarterback for a couple reasons. A, you have to. Like, I don't know how else to say it. You have to take a quarterback in this draft. I'm not saying it's going to have to be at 2, but your best bet would be early on. I mean, let's just be real. And let's look at the reality here. Jimmy Haslam is looking to sell tickets. He's got a billion-dollar dome, multi-billion-dollar dome that he is building. And this team right now is so bad that I've talked to many season ticket holders who have literally said, I'm done. I'm done. Jimmy's job is to get butts back in seats. And listen, I love Travis. I love Abdul Carter. I love a lot of these very, 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 very talented players in this draft. In my opinion, the only way you're doing that is at quarterback. And ultimately, it's a business decision. And you hear a lot of scouting people and you hear a lot of draft personality people talk about what it means to have a top pick. And the common thing that is said is the NFL owners make the top picks, not the GMs. And for me, Tristan, I think that you are going to see Jimmy Haslam once again have his hand in the bucket here and say you're taking a quarterback. That's just my personal opinion. And in my opinion, I think that's what should happen. That is just me. As far as trading, just real fast, I don't think offers are going to be as high for this year's draft picks just because it is more potential versus certainty at the quarterback position. You look back at the 49ers with Trey Lance. They gave up 3 first-round draft picks. Like, if the Browns even remotely get something close to that, yeah, jump all over it. But if it's, hey, we'll move up 3, 4, 5 spots and we'll give you an extra third, kick rocks. Like, no. So at the end of the day, it all comes down to perspective and what you are getting in return. But this is interesting. This is really, really interesting, Tristan.
Yeah, I agree. In terms of like the quarterbacks that we could take, I want to make it very clear. I do think that Shedeur Sanders is a good quarterback, and he will be a good quarterback at the next level. I'm less so worried about his limitations. I think he will be a good quarterback. It's more so fit. I don't think he fits in a Kevin Stefanski offense. This is a guy that it's a lot of spread. It's a lot of similar things that, in my opinion, Deshaun Watson does a lot. Like when I turned on his tape, that's the player I saw. And I promise it's, I looked at Deshaun Watson's highlights from Houston after watching Shedeur's film, and there's just a lot of similarities. I worry about the fit, and it's very clear, and we'll get into this as well, based off of the firings that were made, that we're looking to go back. So I worry about the fit with Shedeur. If we do end up taking him, I will say I will be happy because he is the best quarterback available in this draft class. I want to make that well known. My opinion on him has changed in terms of where my rankings are in terms of which ones I would want on the Browns. Currently, of all the quarterbacks, he would be number one. It's unique. A unique situation for me with this quarterback class. So if Shedeur is there, for me personally, I'm okay with taking him. If he's not, then yeah, I think me personally, I would love us to trade that pick. But regardless, it's important that we get this right. If we're picking a quarterback, we got to get it right. And I actually will disagree with you on something that you said, which was that you can't have the person that ends up being taken, like the quarterback that ends up being taken with that pick, become a superstar. I disagree because ultimately it's about who's going to work out with you. That's important. Sam Darnold is having a career year with the Minnesota Vikings. Couldn't like make anything work with the Jets. And the reason why is because he's a natural fit into the Vikings offense. And you've seen it decently quite a bit throughout the league. Russell Wilson, just this year as well, an aged old veteran. He goes from Denver, where it just was not working for him. He goes to Pittsburgh, and he's had a good season with Pittsburgh. He's been a solid starting quarterback. You can look at that, and you can say the exact same stuff for Baker Mayfield if you really want to. I think it's a little bit of a different nuanced situation. We know a little bit closely. But that's certainly one that applies. Aaron Rodgers in the opposite direction. Kirk Cousins in the opposite direction. So a lot of it with quarterbacks is how they fit into the offense that you're going to have. And for me, I just don't see the quarterbacks that are available at 1 and 2 as fits in this offense. That's the biggest issue with me. And that's my ultimate reason for why I ended up falling on BPA or trade. For me, those are kind of my personal opinions. But there's a lot of different directions this could go in, and I'm just gonna hope for the best.
Yeah, for sure. We will discuss fit at a later time because I do disagree actually with both of these guys, in their own ways. I see what you're saying, 100%, absolutely, but I do think both of these guys could fit in their own ways. Is kind of more so where I'm going on that. But it is absolutely a huge decision, and it's something that's going to not just affect the future of the Browns in this way. You have big news. I could see it on your face.
It's just really interesting. I can't believe I just saw this. Tyreek Hill says he's going to be leaving the Dolphins after the season.
Really? Like retire or?
No. So he said, this is the quote from Cameron Wolfe. She said, eye-opening comments from Tyreek Hill on his Dolphins future after 8 to 9 non-playoff season. 8 and 9. excuse me. He said, "I'm opening the door. I'm out, bro. It was great playing here, but at the end of the day, I got to do what's best for my career. I'm too much of a competitor to be just out there." Okay.
Whoa.
So,
Whoa.
very interesting remarks. Wow. I read that and I just, huh? And here's another one. The Giants are keeping Joe Schoen and Brian Dable. What?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's
I did
crazy.
see that.
Oh my gosh.
I did see that.
Wow. All right. Well, anyways,